Cedar splinters snap. Stained glass bursts into rainbow dust. Mom's porch swing sails into the rubble like shrapnel. I skid the Jeep sideways, door half open before the wheels stop. My boots crunch over what used to be my foyer. A black SUV arrives late to the carnage party. The driver steps out, slick suit, mirrored glasses, HOA logo on the lapel. He smirks at the wreck, taps a golf club on the crushed tile, and calls it progress. I snap that progress shouldn't leave claw tracks. He barely blinks and claims the board targeted an abandoned eyesore. My pulse pounds. I flip my badge wallet so the sun catches the federal seal. I state, voice even, that the so-called eyesore belongs to Special Agent Dani Carter, a homeowner who never missed a tax bill in her life. His smirk slides off. He stutters about clerical errors while the excavator keeps chewing. I bark at the operator to kill the engine. OSHA citations fly faster than lawsuits, but Clipboard King whispers to keep going. Neighbors peek from trimmed hedges. Cell phone lenses bloom like flowers after rain. I walk the site, record every numbered plate, every company logo, every man still holding a sledge like it's innocent. The contractor foreman offers a shrug. He shows me a demolition order with my address, but the letterhead screams Oak Ridge HOA, not City of Fairview. I demand the building permit. He admits they have none. Sirens wail in the distance, units I summoned the moment dust hit the air. Clipboard King laughs, claims police won't override HOA sovereignty. I grin and remark that FBI outranks both. His jaw drops. The stained glass dust drifts past my face. I swear right there on the heap of my life that every board member's signature will be stapled to a felony indictment. The cameras catch the promise. I rewind 3 weeks to the first tap of Gerald Whitman's golf club on my porch step. He arrives in salmon shorts, sock-free loafers, clipboard riding his hip like a holster. He greets me with an overblown grin and claims my century-old craftsman lacks curb synergy. I sip iced coffee and answer that the house predates the subdivision by 70 years, so synergy can jog on. He jots notes, asks if I've reviewed the Oak Ridge Color Harmonization Guide. I counter with the county assessor's map showing my lot outside HOA boundaries. Gerald's smile stiffens. He warns me that voluntary adherence preserves property values. I warn him that unsolicited legal threats trigger federal statutes when delivered to a federal employee. He retreats but leaves a pink courtesy notice wedged in the mailbox. Repaint within 30 days or face corrective action. I feed it to the shredder and email the board a cease and desist. Silence follows for 48 hours. Monday morning, a city envelope lands on my doormat. Inside, notice of condemnation. Termite infestation, structural collapse imminent. I laugh because the termite inspection I commissioned last month reads cleaner than a CDC lab. I video call the building and safety clerk. She scans the barcode and frowns. The request came from someone logging in as T. Rogers, field inspector, but she swears Rogers retired in 2019. Forgery 101. I drive downtown in blazer and badge. The deputy director scrolls through metadata. The IP address traces back to the Oak Ridge HOA server. He issues a hold on the notice and opens an internal fraud ticket. I thank him, copy the packet, and file a FOIA for every HOA-generated permit request in the last 6 months. That night, Gerald hosts a wine and cheese block mixer on his manicured lawn. Residents hover over Bree while he regales them with tales of saving the community from decay. I arrive in jeans, park the Jeep nose in just to annoy him. He greets me with a faux generous smile and inquires if I've scheduled termite fumigation. I answer that I've scheduled a forensic IT audit of his office. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. He waves it off as paranoia, then drops his voice and warns me that litigation is expensive even for federal salaries. I smile sweetly and reply that criminal defense bills are worse. He blanches, red wine sloshing. I slide him a sealed envelope, notice of pending inquiry from the city attorney's fraud division, and walk away while he's still deciphering the letterhead. I tail the paper trail to Whitmore Contracting, Gerald's brother-in-law's company. Their site supervisor, Hank, signs every work order. I visit his trailer office on a gravel lot that smells like diesel and cheap coffee. Hank greets me wearing high-vis and sunburn. He deflates when I introduce myself with badge. I present the forged city seal on my demolition notice. Hank curses softly, admits Gerald paid cash, told him permits were handled. Hank hands over the invoice, $24,000, memo line, Community Beautification Project. I photograph it, bag the original, and promise Hank witness immunity if he stays honest. I email the HOA board an official demand: halt all projects, release insurance info, appear for deposition. Gerald replies all with 2 words: get bent. 5 minutes later, a flatbed rolls onto my street, Komatsu chained like a tiger ready for release. They plan to break ground at dawn. I park my cruiser-sized Jeep across my driveway, snap high-res photos of the machinery, and activate motion sensors. Inside the Craftsman, I gather Mom's stained glass panels and Dad's journals into travel crates. Something in my gut whispers they won't respect a court hold. At 03:41, the alarm trills. I watch through lace curtains as Gerald, clipboard glinting under floodlights, waves the dozer forward. My finger hovers over 911, but I choose another number, Special Agent Ruiz, FBI white collar. He answers sleepy. I say one sentence. Oak Ridge HOA just initiated felony property destruction on a federal witness's residence. Silence ends with Ruiz promising units in 20. Steel meets cedar outside. Glass sings its death song. The Komatsu roars, Gerald applauds, and I walk onto the lawn filming everything, badge shining under the work lights. The dozer operator spots the emblem, hesitates. Gerald screams to keep going, claims my ID is fake. I calmly narrate time, location, parties present. Operator gulps and continues. Contract states penalty for pause. A stained glass shard skids to my boots, catching porch light in crimson. I pocket it, evidence bag later, memory forever. Sirens slice the pre-dawn. Gerald's victory grin flips to a grimace. He tries to explain artistic demolition to the responding deputy. I lift the shard, still glinting red, and tell him the color matches the felony ink that is about to stain Gerald's record. Deputy nods, cuffs click, camera rolls. 48 hours after the bulldozer ballet, I trade my ash-stained jeans for a navy suit and arrive at Oak Ridge's monthly board meeting, badge lanyard gleaming like a spotlight. The clubhouse reeks of overbrewed coffee and panic perfume. Gerald Whitman plants himself at the head table, golf club resting against the chair as if intimidation comes in graphite. He bangs a gavel, declares that tonight's agenda concerns nuisance litigation filed by a disgruntled squatter, meaning me. I rise before he can finish the euphemism and announce that the squatter is a federally credentialed agent whose house resembles a parking lot thanks to this board's forged paperwork. The room buzzes. Someone gasps. Gerald waves his hand, claims the demolition team acted on a valid city order. I counter by dropping the city's fraud report onto the table, page stamped with a crimson permit void. Steve, the board's sweat-glossed treasurer, squeaks that municipal clerks blur addresses all the time. I glare and recite the timestamp Gerald filed at 2:17 a.m., IP traced to the HOA router, MAC address ending. Debbie, the secretary, consults her phone, face draining when the IT log matches. Gerald regains bluster, states that even if a typo occurred, the HOA charter empowers emergency abatements. I bark that emergency abatements end where property deeds begin. He retorts that property lines shift with community interest. Laughter ripples from residents standing along the walls, half scandalized, half gleeful. I slide a second file across the table. Preliminary forensic audit of HOA accounts. I summarize aloud. $317,000 missing from reserves, funneled through beautification consulting. Recipient 1, Gerald Whitman Enterprises, LLC. Gerald slams the table, calls the numbers fabricated. I smile and invite him to explain that theory to the auditor arriving in 16 minutes. Right on cue, the door opens. Special Agent Ruiz steps in wearing bureau gray, followed by city fraud investigator Chen and two uniformed deputies. Ruiz greets me, then addresses the board, voice calm but cold. A federal state task force now investigates forgery, wire fraud, tax evasion, and wrongful property destruction. Gerald leaps up, shouts that Ruiz lacks jurisdiction inside a private HOA session. Ruiz lifts a sealed warrant, signed by Judge Blackwell, authorizing seizure of electronic devices and financial ledgers. He instructs members to remain seated. Debbie drops her tablet. Steve fumbles for his inhaler. Todd, the vice chair, edges toward the exit. Deputy Marks blocks the doorway, informs Todd that leaving equals obstruction. Todd sinks into a folding chair, laser pointer hands trembling. Ruiz orders IT techs to image the association's server. Gerald lunges to yank the power cord, screaming that privileged files live there. I intercept, grasping his wrist with just enough pressure to remind him handcuffs feel worse. He snarls that I orchestrated a personal vendetta. I state evenly that I orchestrated nothing. He authored every forged line with his own keystrokes. He hisses that he will sue me, the bureau, the city, the auditors, the camera manufacturer that recorded his excavator. I reply that bankrupt defendants rarely pay filing fees. Techs mirror the drive. Chen photographs every ledger. Residents film on phones, whispering that Due's money bought Gerald's Cancun condo. Debbie mutters apology, saying Gerald assured them the house was abandoned. I ask why they never knocked on the door that still had curtains and Wi-Fi. She stares at her shoes. Ruiz finishes reading rights. Deputies cuff Gerald. The golf club clatters to the linoleum. He thrashes, roars that he built this paradise, that I turned it into a circus. I lean close, voice barely above a whisper, and answer that paradise built on fraud burns the brightest. Gerald spits that the story isn't over. Appeals will rise. Connections will save him. Deputies usher him through the crowd. Someone sarcastically reminds him to fix the property values on his way to county lockup. Ruiz seals the evidence crates, thanks me for the airtight chain of custody. I nod, pocket a flash drive copy. Outside, porch lights flick on along Sycamore Lane. Homeowners gather in small clusters, equal parts shocked and vindicated. One elderly resident sidles up, thanks me for ending clipboard tyranny. I reply that tyrants self-destruct once the paper trail catches fire. Behind us, the cruiser door slams. Gerald's muffled voice bellows promises of lawsuits against every driveway. The siren chirps once, drowning his threats. Phones capture the moment. Hashtags blossom before the taillights reach the stop sign. I breathe dust-free air for the first time all week, clench the stained glass shard in my pocket, and watch power shift from pastel arrogance to polished handcuffs in under an hour. Proof that even the loudest bulldozer can't drown out a federal warrant. 48 hours after Gerald's perp walk, the Oak Ridge clubhouse looks less like a civic space and more like a crime scene stripped for parts. FBI evidence tape cages the server rack. City auditors camp in folding chairs, sorting receipts that smell of stale perfume, and two IRS agents raid the petty cash lockbox for good measure. I stand in the doorway, badge on my belt, flanked by cameraman bulbs firing through the glass. Local anchors bark phrases like HOA horror and bulldozer bandit into wind-muffled mics, while residents behind them wave handmade signs, no more clipboards, cones for jail. Debbie hovers beside me, clutching a cardboard banker's box, cheeks blotched. She whispers that lawyers advised her to cooperate. I nod, open my recorder, and guide her through a sworn statement. She admits Gerald dictated fine schedules, backdated board minutes, even threatened foreclosure on retirees who protested landscaping surcharges. I ask if she witnessed cash withdrawals. She sobs yes every Thursday before his tea time. Inside the finance office, Steve the treasurer sweats through his dress shirt while an IRS agent compares bank app screenshots to paper ledgers. Steve mutters that Gerald made him round maintenance invoices up by 20%, promised bonuses once property values spiked. The agent grunts, slides him a proffer letter, murmurs that perjury equals prison stripes. Steve signs like a man deflating. I photograph the signature and bag it. The county clerk's courier strides in with a civil seizure warrant. The judge has frozen every HOA account, including Gerald's holding company. Residents crowd the hall as deputies carry out desktop towers, framed inspirational posters, even the espresso machine Gerald bragged about. Someone cheers, someone else starts chanting, "Whose money? Our money." The chant catches. I raise a hand for calm, remind everyone due process finishes what mob rage starts. They hush, but smiles linger. Gerald's interim counsel barges through the tape, demands to see bond documents. Ruiz appears, explains bond revoked. Gerald attempted to liquidate a Cayman account at 3 a.m. Counsel sputters about cruel ambush. Ruiz deadpans that fugitives ambush themselves. Counsel retreats, phone glued to ear. I head outside for air and nearly trip over a pyramid of orange traffic cones stacked in the parking lot. Todd, now ex-vice chair, waves a white flag, a literal pillowcase on a yardstick. He pleads for leniency, offers the cones as restitution symbols. I arch an eyebrow and ask if he'll testify. He nods so hard the stick wobbles. I accept one cone, spray paint a giant red void across it, and hand it back. He stares, stunned, then scurries to the news trucks to sell his exclusive cooperation. Evening creeps in with thunderheads. Reporters still circle, hungry for live footage of the HOA's collapse. I give a brief presser. The association's authority suspended, restitution fund established, affected homeowners invited to file claims. A woman at the front yells that Gerald charged her $500 because her garden gnome wore a hat. Cameras pan to her tearful grin. I confirm fines like those will be refunded. The crowd applauds. Lightning flicks on the horizon as if nature itself signs the motion. An armored van from the county treasury pulls up to seize the Komatsu excavator, evidence and eventual auction asset. Workers in orange vests load the machine onto a lowboy trailer, hydraulic arms chained like a captured beast. Neighbors gather, some clap rhythmically, others toss the now voided cones into the dump bed like victory confetti. As the rig lurches forward, Gerald's voice, patched through a reporter's phone on speaker, erupts over the din. He snarls that every resident is complicit in theft, vows to sue each address, screams that concrete dust will choke our dreams. I step closer to the mic, deliver the reply in one measured bark. Gerald Whitman is free to file motions from county jail. In the meantime, Oak Ridge breathes fresh air for the first time in years. The crowd roars louder than the diesel engine, drowning his rant into static. Sirens fade south. The excavator disappears around the bend, and the last pastel shadow of his empire rolls with it into the storm-lit dusk, leaving nothing behind but a cone parade and a neighborhood finally louder than the bulldozer that tried to silence it. Courtroom feels like a kiln. Sweat beads on reporters' foreheads, cameras hum, and the hum merges with the low growl escaping Gerald Whitman as deputies frog march him to defense table. Shackles clink. Pastel necktie now prison beige. Beside him sits Karen Whitman, sister, ex-secretary, newly unmasked accomplice, lipstick crimson as warning tape. She glares across the aisle where I sit, charcoal suit pressed, shard of stained glass riding in my pocket like a battle coin. Judge Blackwell enters, robe billowing, gavel descending. He recites the docket: wire fraud, forged permits, tax evasion, destruction of a dwelling, conspiracy. Karen mutters that conspiracy implies genius, and I bark that stupidity can still be felonious. She hisses that I ruined the family legacy. I remind her bulldozers did. Prosecutor Mills presents evidence. Each exhibit slams onto the screen: forged demo order, Cayman transfers, golf club receipts, Hank's eyewitness statement. Gerald's lawyer squirms, objects once, is overruled. Mills calls me to testify. I stride up, oath hand raised, and describe the dawn roar, the Komatsu claw, the moment Mom's glass exploded. Karen scoffs audible enough for bailiff to warn her. I finish with the city IP logs tying Gerald's laptop to the 2:17 a.m. Permit submission. Defense rises. Gerald's counsel claims my badge poisoned the HOA's right to self-govern. I answer that self-governance ends at felony assault on private property. Counsel suggests the craftsman was uninhabited. I produce security cam stills from the night before. Lights on, me reading case files in the study. Counsel sits, shoulders sagging. Mills introduces a final surprise. Debbie, now whistleblower, escorted by agents. She hands over a voice recording. The court listens. Gerald at wine mixer instructing Karen to make that eyesore disappear, and Karen giggling, promising her cousin on city payroll will delete the audit flag. Gasps ripple. Gerald slams fist on table, chains rattling. Karen leaps up, shrieking, the tape is doctored. Judge Blackwell bangs gavel, warns she's seconds from contempt. Sentencing phase, Blackwell reads totals, 6 counts, cumulative maximum 23 years. Gerald's knees buckle. Karen grabs his sleeve, begs the judge to consider community service. Blackwell coldly notes community already served enough. He drops the hammer. Gerald receives 12 years federal, restitution of $3.2 million jointly with the HOA. Karen receives 4 years, plus lifetime bar from any fiduciary role. As deputies seize Karen's purse, she twists toward me, eyes blazing, voice a raw engine. She roars that I will choke on paperwork, that appeals courts wear pastel robes, that concrete dust never settles. I step closer and state, calm but cutting, that concrete dust forms foundations for parks named after tyrants so children's dogs can relieve themselves on legacy. A sudden screech from across the lot. Karen's voice, window gap of the van, slicing through rain gust. She bellows that the war is paused, not over, that new deeds wait, that concrete remembers her name. Siren yelps drown half her vow. I lower the gold cone, feel the shard in my pocket warm against my palm, and answer the van's receding silhouette with one final verdict barked into the storm. Asphalt bends to no clipboard.